A sudden hiss of scalding coffee cut through the steady hum of a bustling city café. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Chairs squeaked as patrons turned toward the corner table where a steaming river of dark liquid soaked through the coat and lap of a woman who hadn't even looked up from her book. The man who accidentally tipped the cup wore a blue uniform and a smirk. His badge caught the light, daring anyone to challenge him. The woman's name was Elaine Brooks, and in a few hours this quiet, middle-aged mother, someone most would have walked past without notice, would become a citywid headline. By nightfall, the cop would be suspended. The video of his accident, viewed millions of times, and the city forced to confront an old truth it kept trying to ignore. How did one ordinary Saturday morning spiral into a viral reckoning? Stay with me, because this story is about more than a spilled drink. It's about power, dignity, and the moment silence finally breaks. Saturday mornings were sacred to Elaine. She'd worked 3 decades as a librarian and retired only 6 months earlier, finally free to savor her weekend ritual. An early walk through downtown's leafy streets, a quick browse at the open-air flower market, and a long peaceful read at Maple and Main Café, one of the city's busiest spots. She liked the corner seat near the broad windows, where sunlight softened the hard edges of skyscrapers and made even the busiest intersection look gentle. Her daughter Maya was usually working. At 28, Maya had already built a reputation as a fearless civil rights attorney. Elaine was proud of her, but sometimes wished she didn't have to fight so hard. Across town, Officer Mark Danner ended a tense overnight patrol in the 3rd Precinct. The night had been a blur of arguments, paperwork, and a traffic stop that escalated when he lost his temper. Colleagues knew he had a short fuse, but his arrest numbers kept supervisors happy. He hated paperwork almost as much as he hated waiting in line, and he was desperate for coffee. Maple and Maine was already buzzing when Mark strode in, uniform crisp, badge gleaming. The scent of espresso mingled with warm pastries as he bypassed the line with a quick flash of the badge and a curt nod to the barista. "No, please. No, thank you." The room's energy tightened. Elaine noticed but kept reading, her fingers tracing the worn spine of a novel she loved. Mark scanned the café like he owned it. He noticed Elaine's calm, unbothered presence, her focus on the page, her quiet steadiness, and felt a strange irritation. He moved closer than necessary while waiting for his order, enough that Elaine caught a faint whiff of stale cologne and the sharp tang of authority. When the barista called his name, he reached for his cup, turned, and deliberately brushed against her table, rattling her saucer. "Excuse me," Elaine said softly, eyes still on her book. No response. Just a thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. He stepped aside, pretended to look for cream, then pivoted sharply. The motion was subtle but intentional. The coffee tipped. A scalding stream cascaded over the edge of the cup, splashing across Elaine's coat and jeans, soaking the open book. The cafe went silent. Elaine inhaled sharply at the sudden burn but stayed still, absorbing the heat, the humiliation, the eyes on her. "Oops," Mark said, voice flat. A smirk flickered. He didn't reach for napkins. The young barista rushed over with towels, her eyes wide. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Before Elaine could answer, Mark barked. It was an accident. He tapped the badge on his chest like punctuation. The manager appeared, unsure whether to help or retreat. Mark's uniform carried an unspoken threat. Phones emerged from pockets. A college student near the door quietly pressed record. Elaine dabbed at her clothes, then straightened her shoulders. Years of small slights crowded her memory. Clerks who followed her in stores, neighbors who clutched their purses, the time a driver rolled up a window rather than accept her directions. But another voice echoed louder, Maya's. "Mom, silence lets them win." Elaine met the manager's eyes. "Please save the security footage and give me your business card," Mark scoffed. "Ma'am, it was an accident." "Let's not make this a big deal." Her voice remained calm. I'll also need a printed incident report and the cafe's contact for legal records. The manager hesitated, torn between customer service and the uniform glaring at him. Elaine held his gaze until he nodded and retreated to the back office. Each precise word she spoke deepened the hush. Mark shifted, irritation sharpening into unease. Elaine stepped outside into the cool morning air and dialed a single number. "It's Mom," she said when the line picked up. "I need you here." 30 minutes later, Maya Brooks arrived, tall and composed in a charcoal suit that contrasted with her mother's damp clothes. Her presence changed the energy immediately. She moved with purpose, greeting the manager, speaking to witnesses, requesting written statements, and asking for a copy of the surveillance video. Every action was calm, precise, and unmistakably legal. When Mark noticed the resemblance and the attorney's badge on Maya's briefcase, his bravado faltered. Recognition dawned. This was the same Maya Brooks who had filed a federal complaint against his precinct just weeks earlier. A case already drawing media attention. The cafe buzzed again as a local reporter who often stopped in for coffee began recording. Maya asked the manager to bring the sergeant on duty. Within minutes, Mark's supervisor arrived. The sergeant watched the security footage in silence, the deliberate pivot, the smirk, the absence of any attempt to help. He turned to Mark, jaw tight. "Step outside, now." Mark tried to speak, but the sergeant raised a hand. Witnesses murmured. Phones recorded every moment. For the first time that morning, Mark's confidence cracked. By evening, the cafe's footage and multiple cell phone videos were online under the hashtag #CoffeeJustice. Within hours they racked up millions of views, sparking outrage far beyond the city. National outlets picked up the story. Officer suspended after deliberate coffee spill on black patron. The department placed Mark on administrative leave, pending a formal investigation. Days later he was suspended without pay and eventually faced a civil harassment charge. The city council ordered mandatory bias training for all precincts, a move long demanded by activists but repeatedly delayed, until now. Elaine initially declined interviews, preferring the comfort of her books and quiet mornings. But as the story spread, she agreed to speak at a community forum. Standing before a packed hall, her voice was steady. "This isn't about a cup of coffee," she said. "It's about every quiet person told to swallow disrespect. Today I didn't stay quiet, and neither should you." Maya used the momentum to highlight systemic discrimination, leveraging public attention to secure a settlement that funded local youth programs and racial bias education. For many, the incident became a catalyst for change, proof that dignity and resolve could shift the conversation from silence to accountability. Mark Danner, once an officer confident that a badge could shield him, became a national example of how small cruelties expose bigger truths. And Elaine Brooks, once just a quiet woman reading in a sunlit corner, stood as a reminder that you never know the quiet power someone carries, or the daughter they may have raised.